Hey guys and gals, my name is Quinlan if you did not know that, and today I'm going to be reviewing Logic's newest album, newest project, No Pressure. No Pressure is the sequel to his debut studio album Under Pressure, which released all the way back in 2014, and it deems the reuniting of Logic and No ID, who actually executively produced No Pressure. I'm not sure how much of an influence he had in Under Pressure, but I'm sure he also executively produced that one. I'm not all up to date with the whole Logic lore and all of his sort of background and history. When it comes to No Pressure, it is a 15-track album and it consists of 59 minutes of content, and there are no interludes. There is a sort of intro, and obediently always sort of acts as an outro, but they are essentially a fully fleshed out song in the form of the intro and a very long speech by Orson Welles as an outro. Logic fans have been craving an album such as this one for years. His latest few albums, although they weren't the best projects, I thought they had a lot of highlights, and I knew that if Logic really knuckled down, he could definitely release a classic album. And a lot of people didn't really like his last album, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, but I thought there were one or two highlights. But yeah, I agreed with them, and I thought the album was pretty trash, and that had a lot of people doubting Logic and slandering him and basically questioning his whole rap career over one album. But I guess it was sort of justified, not, to the extent of hate that he got, but the fact that he hadn't put out a fully fleshed out good project for a little while. So the No Pressure intro is the best rap album intro that you could ask for, and what makes this even better is that it is specific for this album. It is exclusively made for this album. You couldn't put it on any other album, and it's what Logic fans have been craving and waiting for. This is sort of the intro before the main event that everyone is waiting for, and he's got a slick flippin' flow, and the production is very, very good, so it sort of sets up the album and what is to come very nicely. He comes through with a few quotables such as "Never graduated but I school him like professor," dogging these B-words like I'm a pedigree, and over possessions like an apostrophe. Now, I haven't heard Logic one-liners in a little while. A lot of them have been pretty cringe, but these ones are just fire. They're just fire, and it sets up the album beautifully. You get into the second track, Hit My Line, and this track is decent. I like the production on it, but I don't really care for Logic as a singer. It's sort of a nice vibe while it's on, and I do like Logic's rap verses, but the best part for me is definitely the outro of this track when the instrumental is just left there and it's just knocking. It's really, really nice. It's not a highlight for me, but it definitely adds to the track list and is very, very nice while you are playing the album, and it just fits perfectly in the album. Then you move on to the third track, which is GP4, and I didn't know this stood for Growing Pains 4. I really liked Growing Pains 3 from the Under Pressure album, but I didn't really care for this track. The instrumental was okay, and although the production was good, I just didn't like the sound of it. I didn't like the sort of weird "you and me together in this perfect harmony," at the beginning. And Logic's flow is decent, but his delivery is just weird when he comes through with these weird, very, very weird delivery. I didn't really care for, and I didn't really know what he was on about. I know that he was speaking about his come up and the hardships that he had back in the day, but I just couldn't really get over the weird beats and delivery. So it's not my favorite track, but it's not a horrible track. It's a decent track. After the third track, you get into the best act, in my opinion, the sort of after the intro into the second act, where you've got Celebration, Open Mic / Aquarius 3, Soul Food 2, and Perfect. This is for me the best part of the album. Celebration kicks it off very, very nicely, and it is definitely a celebratory track, but it's not sort of cringe. It's not sort of like, okay, it's a bit happy clappy. It's nice to listen to, and it has a feature from Silas. I'm not sure if I am pronouncing that correctly, but he is actually signed to Bobby Boy Records, and he has been signed for about a year now, and he brings a lot of versatility to the track while still complementing Logic and adding a bit of variety to the whole track list. I did like it a lot. This track is a very, very good track. There's sort of grand production, and Logic is just flowing very, very nicely and passionately, and it's what a lot of people have been waiting for from him. Then you get into the 5th track, Open Mic / Aquarius 3, and this track is just...
Why are you gay?
It's so good. It's so very, very good. It's probably my favorite track, and that's because the production is just so good. You've got these choir or like just really nice singing melodies in the background, and for me, tracks with like beautiful melodies in the background while the person is just rapping over it just kill me. Like, for example, Deep End Freestyle by Sleepy Hallow, or The Recipe from Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City project. This track has it on the first half as well as the second half in Aquarius 3, but there is definitely a little bit of a change up between the beginning and the end. What I forgot to mention on Celebration is that he interpolates Skepta's chorus from Praise the Lord, the Shine. I came, I saw, I came, I saw, I praise the Lord, then break the law. And he comes through with some very, very nice, very nice lyricism on Open Mic / Aquarius 3, where he basically says, can't wait until my sun shine and together we reign. And then he says, battled addiction in the womb, a crack baby by definition. And he says, I've learned every day's a good day, surrounded by people that love me, don't want nothing from me but my happiness. Nah fam, where have you been, Logic? Where the hell have you been? Apparently this was written over the course of 1 week and was recorded in 4 studio sessions. If you can do this in 1 week, then why haven't you been doing this 52 weeks of the year? Why haven't you released 52 albums? Okay, maybe, you know, they said the production took a year to make, but he's gonna live for another 52 years.
Boy, if you don't get...
Nah, fam. And then you get into the next track, Soul Food 2, which is a sequel to Soul Food 1, I guess. And I love Soul Food 1, and I believe they sort of kept the same formula. They kept a very, very similar instrumental, and Logic just kills it, man. He just kills it. And there's another flow switch in the middle, or rather beat switch as well. Logic is just in his element. He's flowing
Look at this dude.
He's flowing effortlessly and naturally, and I just love it. And the production is so good. Very, very good. It just complements Logic perfectly, and it sort of puts him in the album cover art's atmosphere, you know. He's just rapping, flowing, and everything around him is just working with him. Then you go into track 7, which is Perfect, and it is only 1 minute and 40 seconds and sort of acts as an interlude, and I quite like that about it, because you've come from 6 tracks that have just been content heavy. Besides the intro, they have been very content heavy, and the production has been there very grand and really filling your ears, so you need a little bit of a break, and I like that Perfect does that for us. It is a short rap trap banger, and I love the voice samples from, I think there's like a Street Fighter sample, you know, when he's coming through that perfect and like fire. That stuff was just really, really fun, and Logic kills it. He's very aggressive, he's got a hard, mean flow, and you sort of listen to every single thing that he's saying here. It's a nice little banger. Then you get into Man I Is, and Man I Is a decent track, and it has a decent beat, but I feel like Logic has just been doing the same thing over and over compared to his previous tracks, and he doesn't really change it up that much or do anything special for me to like this track a lot, but it's nice in the track list, and I think that it sounds like something that Madlib would produce. So yeah, it's not bad, adds to the general aesthetic of the album, but not my favorite track. Then we get into track 9, which is DadBod, and this is a pleasant surprise for me. I thought it was going to be quite cringe due to the title of the track, but it is a very, very nice vibe. After listening to it once, you may not like it, but after you listen to it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you're gonna love it. And I really, really like the music video to this too. Logic is very self-aware on this track, and he's poking fun at a lot of things. It's sort of a vibe track, and I love that about it, and where it is situated in the album, because you've had a lot of very serious tracks and a lot of grand production and content heavy tracks, so you get into a nice chilled vibe where Logic is just being self-aware, poking fun at a lot of things, and he comes through with quite a few funny lines like Bobby boy, you better eat your greens, don't give me lip about it, as well as I love my wife like I am Chance.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like, if that's not one of the best one-liners you've ever heard in the history of rapping, then I don't know what else to say. I mean, him and Chance and Logic dropped some pretty horrible projects last year, and for him to come through with a line like that is just, yeah, it's very comical. But what I like about it too is that it also has a sort of serious message that you can take out of it. He says that we would be rapping about the same things if we were in his position, because the money, the fame, they don't actually mean anything. They really don't, and the only things that matter are the people who are around you and your family and people who truly care for you, as he has stated on tracks before that. And this is a major theme that has been coming out of this album. Then we go into 5 hooks, and this track for me is decent. I like the production on it, and I can appreciate some of Logic's lyrics and the fact that he says that there were only 5 hooks on Under Pressure and there are only 5 hooks on No Pressure, and these are both his best albums in my opinion and most people's opinions, and that he's made it in the rap game and he's mainstream, even though he hasn't necessarily made a whole bunch of mainstream stuff. I know that his latest projects like Bobby Tarantino 2 as well as Confessions of a Dangerous Mind are definitely more mainstream albums, but essentially Logic at his core, at his best, is not mainstream at all, and he's got a very, very large and very, very dedicated fan base. So I like the lyrics on this one, but yeah, I just didn't really care for it that much. Otherwise, I thought it was a decent track, and it definitely adds to the album and adds to the general aesthetic, and it's nice when you're listening to it while listening to the whole album, but it's not something that you would necessarily save to a playlist. Then you get into track 11, which is Dark Place, and this is definitely a highlight for me. I like the background vocals, and I love the fact that Logic gets quite personal, and he talks about his mental health and how he has always been spreading peace, love, and positivity, as he states on quite a few tracks, and how there have been so many people who have just been slandering him online, and he's sort of lost his identity, as he doesn't have to rap about the same things that he was rapping about back then because he's not experiencing them anymore, and he's got a whole bunch of new problems with fame and money. And I really, really like the aesthetic of this track, and I love the fact that Logic is flowing naturally and effortlessly, and it's pretty rare that we can have people who just plainly state their reality and we still feel every single word that they are telling us. And I like the Orson Welles outro after this, and it sort of acts as another interlude into the next track, A to Z. So after Dark Place, we get into the 12th track, which is A to Z, and this is definitely the worst track by far. I'm pretty sure that Logic knows it's the worst track by far, but it wouldn't be a Logic album without a track like this. He has to have a little cringe track, but I do sort of like the production a little bit. I think that it is a little bit annoying though, because it's like a nursery rhyme sort of piano thing, and even though it's got a dark vibe to it, I mean, he's literally doing the ABCs with his kid. Like, nah fam, I'm sure he knows that this is booty cheeks.
Boy, if you don't get.
But he just does it anyway. So yeah, the demo that he plays at the end is pretty funny. Then we get into the 13th track, which is getting into the last act with Heard Him Say, and this has a very, very nice choir sample in the background. It sort of hits a very gospel vibe towards the end with this band sample from like the 1980s, and it really reminds me of some old 2000s kids shows, like something I would hear on Barney, for example, and in the car when I'm driving with my mother back when I was like, I don't know, 2-3 years old. I like Logic's flow on this track, and I like the general production again. Then we get into track 14, Amen, which is quite a sad track for me because it's essentially Logic just thanking his fan base and being like, we made it this far, and Thank God for all of you guys, because my life wouldn't be the same without you. And as I said, yeah, it's pretty sad to hear that he's retiring now. Do I think that this is going to be the last Logic album? I don't think anyone thinks it's going to be the last Logic album. But I love his passion in this one. I love his emotion in this one. And I love the fact that he is thanking all of us and doing it in the most sincere way possible. And it, sets up a very, very nice track. Definitely another highlight for the album. And then we get into the final track, Obediently Yours, which is basically a long monologue, a long sample, a long speech from Orson Welles' commentaries. But it is very, very much in tune with what is happening today with Black Lives Matter, with police brutality. It's talking about slavery back then, but a lot of what he says stands today, stands very, very true today. And I like it as an outro because Logic has been talking about the fact that he couldn't cover every single topic that was that is happening in the world right now, every single bad topic that is happening in the world right now, but it's a very, very nice sort of outro. When I first heard this album, I thought it was good. When I listened to it over and over and over again, I really, 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 really like the highlights off of this album. I love the production on it, and I think that it flows very, very nicely. Even though there aren't any interludes besides perhaps Perfect, it flows very well because the track might be 5 minutes long, but there are like 30 seconds to a whole minute where it's just an instrumental playing, whether it's in the beat switch, whether it's an outro, whether it's a long intro, and so on and so forth. So you've got breaks in the album, and then you've got areas where you must listen to the content. And I generally love the structure of this album and how it all played out. I think that if Logic replaced one or two tracks, for example, if he put OCD instead of A to Z there, I probably would have enjoyed the album a little bit more and given it a like almost perfect score or a very, very high score. But for now, I think this album is definitely a little 8 out of 10, a little 8. So what would you guys rate it? Please leave a comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am going to be posting more and more. Follow my socials down in the description, listen to some of my own trash music, and do the damn things, innit?